these sneakers were every single wear until they weren't. So first off, in this video, we're gonna spark it up and we're gonna talk about the slide game. And first off, I'm gonna talk about 2022 to about 2024. And around this time, this was like the golden age of like foam clogs and slip-ons. At least that's what I like to call it. But if it looked like a space pod, we were buying it. I gotta say, that was kind of the trend between those ages, and I gotta say we're kind of leaking into that in 2025. But in 2025, I gotta say comfort isn't enough anymore. And now with that being said, people wanted that form and function. This slide right here was soft, comfy, weatherproof, and futuristic. And everyone from your barber to your barista had a pair. Some even called it the future of footwear, but I gotta say at this point we cannot name it that no more. And then we all realized it's real bulky, it's sweaty, and it's kind of embarrassing to wear in like a lifestyle situation like a dinner per se, or maybe even just like a regular night out. But with that being said, this is the ultimate Yeezy slide, you guys, and it hurts my heart to put this in this list so early, especially. But the Yeezy slide is definitely one of those that it didn't really help with Adidas kind of overstocking it. And I just gotta say, before we get deeper and deeper into this list, you guys will probably know the first reveal, just like the Yeezy slides that I do mention. But as we get further into the list, you're probably not gonna know what I'm talking about. So stay tuned and watch the video throughout so you can get put on. And if you do want to get put on a daily basis, make sure you hit that subscribe and notification bell. But I gotta say, one Yeezy wasn't alone. Another futuristic foam clog followed it into the graveyard this year. So next segment is gonna be about foam slides. Now, this one looked like the Yeezy slides on steroids. It has that chunky wave-like look, and it's impossible to ignore, I gotta say. And a little hint to this, if you are tapped into the channel, this is one of the slides or clogs per se that I've done on the channel real recently. But with that being said, you guys, it got big in 2023, blew up in 2024, and by 2025, I wouldn't say we completely ghosted it, but I feel like only a select few of, like, I would say fashionable groups know about this shoe right here. But I gotta say, even TikTok moved on, and y'all know when TikTok moves on, everybody moves on. But with that being said, the ultimate reveal, this is the Crocs Echo Clog and also the Echo Wave. Now this is too loud. I gotta say the design is crazy. It takes a bit to get used to, and I'm not gonna lie. And a little hot take, I definitely would pick the React X over the Echo Wave just because it's more of my vibe. Now I know a lot of y'all might be on my heads in that comment section, but I gotta say it's more of my vibe, it's more of me, fits with my identity, and just like it has that function that I would like out of my clog. So with that being said, you guys let me know what y'all would pick between the two, and if you want a better like comparison, I recommend you click that video and watch it after this. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and shift gears now, because even the classics can definitely fall off, and this next one might just hurt. So the third one, you guys, this is a sneaker that, man, it definitely hit for quite some time, I'm not gonna lie. This is one that had lots of colorways, it was versatile. It's from Nike, and I gotta say, the fatigue on this shoe right here is real. But I gotta say, this is one you couldn't escape, especially that panda colorway. And if you know, go ahead and comment down below before I even say this model. But I gotta say, that panda colorway was inescapable. The skate shops, the TikTok trends, man, it was everywhere. But this sneaker started a collector's dream at one point in time, and it ended up on outlet shelves. Now with that being said, I gotta say, for this sneaker, it's kind of drawn out too much because we had too many releases, too many colorways, and too much of a good thing, I guess you can say, that kind of gone bad. But it went from clean to the I can't even wear it no more, because it's like everyone has this shoe already and it's not even unique. But this one is the Nike Dunk Low, especially in that panda or even some of the GR colorways. Now this isn't hate, but the fatigue is real. We're all tired of seeing them, just like we're all tired of seeing the Tims. So if you are a Tim wearer out there, you better put those in the back pile. Nah, I'm playing with y'all. But with that being said, Yo, these Nike Dunks, I gotta say, they're definitely still wearable, but the hype is over. But I gotta say, they also just don't hit the same anymore. Number 4 is gonna be the fact that we're just not in for the hype collabs just because they're for hype collabs. We're into the hype collabs because of the overall style and the ones that just haven't lost their plot. And this sneaker collab should have worked. They have 2 strong names, great history, limited pairs, but it got lost in the shuffle. And I guess you can say it's one of those that, I don't know if it's one that you kind of say wasn't on brand, but for me personally, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the description. Like, I thought these shoes would have been way harder. I gotta say, the colors are a little different from what I would have expected, but you guys let me know and give me an overall rating once I go ahead and reveal the sneaker. But I gotta say, even the resale couldn't save it. Collectors passed, everyday wearers passed, and we all collectively shrugged. Now, this is the Travis Scott Jordan 1 Low, and I believe the name is Canary. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I gotta say, they're still, like, I would say, technically cool, but no one's checking for them anymore. And I gotta say, a lot of people that had them in the collection, they're just sitting. So that being said, if you didn't go ahead and cop, you definitely saved you a couple dollars. But you'll never guess which $200 performance sneaker just became a clearance aisle regular. So I recommend you stay tuned for that, because we are just getting into the thick of the list. But here, this is going to be one that looked fast. I gotta say, it definitely felt fast. And for a minute, it was fast. But then, too many people got injured in it. Too many reviews exposed the real truth. And I gotta say, and suddenly, this go-to super shoe lost its edge. And speaking of exposing the real truth, I gotta say, on my channel, that is what we do. I do a lot of reviews, and I give you my first impressions and thoughts. So if you want reviews, some early in-hand looks, and things like that, make sure you hit that subscribe notification bell so you get tapped in with all the latest and greatest to do with sneakers. But this one right here is one that we kind of question, is it really worth that $250 price point, or is it just hype? And I gotta say, I feel like this was just hype. And this sneaker right here is the Nike Alpha Fly Next 2%. Now I gotta say, I am a fan of the Nike Alpha Fly 3s, but this pair right here, I wasn't a particular fan of, even though I gotta say I'm not the biggest runner out there. I am gonna get into running in a little bit, but currently I'm not the biggest runner. But I gotta say, from reviews that I've seen out there and just some other sources, I gotta say this is one that is still elite, but runners move towards like those newer, safer models for sure. Now, I would say these, and this is from just research purely, I haven't had these on hand or things like that, but I gotta say these are too unstable for those daily runs, and they're too much for casual wear for sure. Now, I feel like the running shoe game is slowly getting back into that lifestyle wearability bag, which we have seen with the New Balance Rebel V5, which is releasing in July. But I gotta say, this was definitely not one of them ones. But I gotta say, there's one sneaker that everyone wanted to love and just didn't get it to work. And that is the next one. And this one looked cool. Celebs wore it. Luxury brands copied it. But the toe box, way too snug. Now, I gotta say, I have heard a lot of complaints about this sneaker right here. And this is coming from me personally. I honestly love this sneaker a lot. I feel like this sneaker is very, very much underrated. So if you're looking for an underrated gem, I definitely would go ahead and cop this one. And I wouldn't go ahead and buy a sneaker or not buy a sneaker simply because of the hype. I definitely would just go with the sneaker that you authentically like yourself. But with that being said, you guys, this is one that it still gets a lot of love from like the fashion circles, but in 2025 it's just not that go-to, which is kind of typical with a lot of these sneaker trends and things like that, which is really why I say you shouldn't be following these trends. But this is the New Balance 2002R, and I am talking about specifically the protection pack. Now this is the one that I recommend you should be able to get. These look really, really fire. They have like the distressed look on them, and they just look real fire in my opinion. But I gotta say, the chunky dad wave has slowed down just a bit in 2025, but I like feel like comfortability is definitely up. But what I gotta say is this model is still premium, but I gotta say it's much more saturated and it has taken that back seat. And now before we wrap this up, let's go ahead and get into a few honorable mentions that barely made the cut. So first, out of the 4 honorable mentions that I have for y'all, the first one is going to be the Jordan 1 mids. These are definitely still around, but they get very much love this year. And to be honest, I feel like that's expected. I feel like the Jordan 1 mids are definitely not one of the Jordans you'd be like, okay, I want to buy these, because these is definitely one of the ones that's just like, why would you get a mid? I feel like you should get a high, maybe even a low, but why a mid? I feel like the mids definitely shouldn't be getting that much love, at least in my opinion. But Foam Runners is also a good one that I feel like is one of those models that is dead. I feel like every cousin out there has a fake pair now. I feel like, man, this sneaker clone and like dupe market is definitely making the sneaker market a whole lot worse. And I gotta say, the Foam Runners are done. Now we also have the Ultra Boost 22s. These are too bulky. And New Balance and Hoka basically stole their whole shine, which I gotta say, if you're looking for like an Ultra Boost 22, definitely go ahead and check out some New Balance or some Hokas. And last but not least, we have the Reebok Club C. These are stylish, yes, but the retro wave definitely has moved on. So which of these sneakers did you rock? And also let me know which ones live in your rotation and which ones do you wish you never bought. With that being said, you guys, drop your own sneaker graveyard list in the comments. I want to see what you guys have to say. Let's go ahead and have a little debate in the comment section. And if you want part 2 for the sneakers that made a comeback, let me know and give this video a like. But with that being said, make sure to subscribe for daily sneaker and style content. Turn on that bell because we do break trends before they go ahead and break your wallet. And speaking of trends, go ahead and click here so you can stay updated with the latest that sneaker game has to offer. I'll see you in that one.